you are going to feel unmotivated. You're going to feel like you're failing at this. You could be extra sensitive or withdrawn. That is normal. Transitions create emotional noise, and the key is not to interpret it as something being wrong with you. The good news is when you understand what's happening, you can support your system through it, right? Simplify your choices, nourish your body, sleep when you can, ask for help. Know that the funk isn't forever, but being aware that you're in the funk will help you give yourself a little grace.
Mariette's on the move.
What?
Mariette's on the move.
Again?
Mariette's on the move.
Not anymore. I'm Mariette of Mariette's on the Move, and I'm finally setting roots back in Sweet Home Chicago. But if you're thinking about moving, I'm on it. I've moved 20 times in the last 24 years to 6 of America's top cities, and boy, do I have some stories for you. I'll be doing some on-air coaching and, of course, giving you my tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. This is the Moving Tips and Tricks podcast. Now, let's get moving.
Welcome to the new studio, everyone. I am very excited to be here. I have not recorded in quite a while, and so this is awkward. I know we were on a break, and I didn't tell you we were on a break, but I took a break because I needed a break. And that kind of is a great segue for what we're going to talk about today, which is what happens to our bodies and brains during major transitions like moving. Moving is often framed as a logistical challenge. You pack the boxes, you book the truck, you change the address, but the real challenge is what's happening inside your body and your brain. And as a relocation coach and a certified life coach, I've witnessed it time and again in not only myself, but in my clients. And this isn't even like the stress of finances. This is legit biological bananas, like the fatigue, the forgetfulness, the frustration that seems to come out of nowhere during a move. And it's not laziness or lack of motivation. It's biology. I sent a newsletter out a few weeks ago titled, "You're Not Crazy, You're in Transition, and Your Body Knows It." And the response to this newsletter was off the charts. So I knew that I was hitting a nerve. It's hard to be very vulnerable about how I've been feeling myself personally because I'm a very positive person and I don't want to come off negative. Or if someone's going through a tough time already, I don't want to make them feel worse. But we need to normalize what we go through during big transitions and realize that it doesn't end the day of your move into a new place or, starting a new job. It can last for 6 to 12 months afterwards. And today we're talking about cortisol. We're talking about decision fatigue. We're talking about grief and really the neuroscience of chaos during a move. So after I went down the rabbit hole of what happens to us, and let me tell you, I really had to dig because there is not a lot out there tied specifically to moving. I had to kind of piece it together from all kinds of different things. And, I was using all the different words like transition and relocation and everything that I could possibly think of to say, like, what is physically happening to my body? Because I feel crazy. And I realized I was in the 6-month funk, which happens, obviously 6 months after you move. But I categorized all of my research into 6 categories. Like, that's the bad news. The good news is I have 8 different categories to support you through it. So let's dig into what I found. So the first thing was that the brain flags change as threat, which is crazy. So your amygdala, which is the brain's fear center, lights up during any big transition, even positive ones like a new home or you're moving to your favorite city ever. And this triggers a fight or flight response, releasing cortisol and adrenaline, which can lead to anxiety, irritability, and poor sleep. And because the brain craves predictability and control, moving filled with uncertainty and constant decision-making feels like a threat to its safety. So that was the first thing I found. The second one was that your executive function is in overload. So your prefrontal cortex, which is the part that handles decision-making and planning, goes into legit overdrive during a move. So you've got packing lists and utility setups and school enrollments and all the things. Like, it's just constant. This is called decision fatigue. And it can make even simple tasks feel paralyzing and overwhelming. And actually, Laura from Laura Makes Moves, she was on my podcast a couple of times. And I think it was last year that we were talking about decision fatigue and how just the sheer volume of micro decisions can lead to procrastination, crazy emotional outbursts, or even just like paralyzation, which is what kind of happened in my account. So you just have a complete brain mental shutdown and you feel completely irrational 1 minute and then you're completely fine the next, which makes you feel even crazier. So that was number 2. Number 3 is emotional attachment and loss. So we're emotionally bonded to our homes and routines. And leaving them, whether you realize it or not, subconsciously, can cause grief. Even if we're excited about what's happening next, like it could be the best move for you ever, right? You could have just made $1 bazillion on your house, or you're leaving school and you're going out to, the big bad world and you're super excited and been waiting your whole life for it. This still shows up as grief. And we don't know enough about grief, but it can show up many different ways. So fatigue, sadness, brain fog, and sometimes even real somatic symptoms, which are like stomach aches or, that anxiety and tightness that you feel in your chest. There were so many things that happened to me during this process because my grief, I think, stemmed from moving from Charlotte. I left a lot in Charlotte. Like, I know if you've been listening to the podcast, I had 2023 was a horrific year for me. I lost several people in my life. I lost both my dogs in the span of 4 months. My relationship ended. Like all of these things happened to me. And I went through such a tough period that the waves of grief would hit me in the most random places. Like I could literally be picking an apple from the produce section of a grocery store and I would start crying. And at one point in time, I was in the Whole Foods in Indianapolis. And that was a true story. I was in the produce section and I wasn't getting an apple because I don't love apples, but I don't remember what I was getting. Regardless, I literally had tears in my eyes and I was trying to be very discreet about it. And I was wiping them away. And the produce guy literally put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Are you okay?" And I just looked at him and I said, "I'm processing a little grief right now." And he goes, "Wow, that's a great line." And I said, it's not a line, it's the truth. And he goes, "Yeah, but I'm processing a little grief right now too. And it's hitting me in weird places. And so I might have to steal that line." I'm like, "Boss, it's all yours." Like, thanks, and just the fact that I was able to call it out helped process it in that moment. Like it almost instantly disappeared. The tear well dried up and I felt so much better. So I think we can call it what it is. Mentally speaking, your subconscious will be like, "Oh, okay, we're processing grief. Okay, cry it out, get it over with, and then, move on." And it's going to come and go. That's just what it is. So that was the third thing I found. The second thing I found was interesting. So the fourth thing, the disrupted circadian rhythms. So this was like packing late into the night, inconsistent waking times, and new environment can really mess with your sleep-wake cycle. And it can even be like the new things. Like when I moved into this house that I'm currently in, there were all kinds of weird sounds that were happening. Like the HVAC system is so super loud and it would go on and I would practically hit the ceiling. And I, didn't have at the time an alarm system or anything to tell me what that was. So I just, I would just wake up and that just messed with my sleep cycle so badly. But it's just, like I said, new sounds, new smells, getting the right temperature. It took me forever to figure out what the right temperature is because, 67 in my Charlotte house felt way different than 67 in my Orland house. So even just getting the temperature comfortable can lead to poorer sleep, which, obviously we all know it exacerbates your mood swings and memory issues and cognitive, issues when you're sluggish and tired. So that was a big thing that I found, that transition kind of mess with that circadian rhythm, which I thought was super, super interesting. The fifth thing that it does is has a social and environmental disorientation. And I thought disorientation was a great, great word for it because really, even if you move to the other side of town, you're still finding new routes. And your hippocampus is the part of your brain which helps with memory and spatial navigation. And it's working overtime in a new space. I love that I moved home because I barely ever use my GPS now, but I still use it every once in a while. But even though I grew up in the town that I'm currently living in, or, right around this town, I still sometimes I'm like, wait, am I going down the right street? Like, oh shoot, I passed the street. I should have gone to the other one. You're still working in overtime in that new space, and your body and your brain are like mentally remapping, and it's taxing when you're already in survival mode and you're like trying to like keep your head above water, especially for families who must also reorient kids and pets and routines. Like that is a big one. Plus, you have the lack of a stable community, even if it's temporary, right? Like when you're moving in between places, just you feel kind of alone. And so you don't have that like stability of like being able to call somebody out or call anybody, or even if you can call them, it's like you don't have them right there to like give you a hug and be like, okay, you're fine. It literally can increase feelings of loneliness and disconnection, which both are biologically stressful to your body and your brain because you need that as a human being. That's just part of our wiring. So I thought number 5 was very, very, very interesting because it is social and environmental disorientation. I don't know how else to describe it. That was like, when I put it in there, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that is exactly how I feel. And then the 6th one was your immune system suppression. So chronic stress from transition increases cortisol, which weakens your immune response. And people often get sick right before or right after a move. My cousin Becky is going through a really tough time, and like she ended up getting surgery. She's moving with a 2-month-old who I am lucky enough to be her godmother. I'm so excited. She asked me a couple weeks ago, and oh my gosh, Willow is her name, and she is adorable. So that happened while we were on a break. But yeah, she ended up having to get surgery because her, body, her immune system was down. And, people often get sick right before or right after a move. And, looking back, if you've moved, you probably noticed that. It's not a coincidence. It's literally biology. So your body is stressed out. It can't fight off any type of, immune disruption. And you're basically, suppressing your immune system. So you have to be ready for that. That's why in the Fred framework, we talk a lot about robustness, like that mental and physical strength, and getting your body physically ready for it. Your immune system, you're like everything, like that is part of the framework for a reason, because you're mentally not strong enough, and which brings down your biology and increases your cortisol, then your physical body is going to suffer the consequences because you're going to have a weakened immune response. So you could get sick, and try packing and being under a deadline and everything when you're sick. It just sucks, and nobody wants that. So basically, the science of feeling off during a move is your cortisol's up and your energy's down. Your decision fatigue equals mental fog. Your emotional dislocation is your grief and fatigue. And then those new routines equal, I guess, biological confusion. Your overloaded brain is like that short fuse and low resilience. And at this point, you're probably begging for me to tell you how to fix it if you are in this hot mess of a move right now, which a lot of people are. Summer is the hottest moving season, and we are smack dab in the middle of it. I want to tell you how to fix this. And it's not everybody's different, right? But here are some things, some strategies that you can use. And luckily, like I said, I have more strategies to fix these things than I do that seem to be broken. And again, I know there's legalese at the end of this podcast. I'm not a doctor. I'm not physically diagnosing you with anything. These are all things that you could experience that I know I have experienced in my 20 moves that I've moved. So these are some suggestions. Take it or leave it. So first, I want you to normalize what you're feeling, right? You're not broken. You're biologically taxed. So you can use that, or you can say, I'm processing grief, right? There are some quick strategies like hydration, sleep hygiene, lists, routines, and asking for help, and then giving yourself grace. So regulators, mount up. Let's talk about these 8 things you can do to support your brain and body during a big transition, because you need it. The first thing is regulating the nervous system. Get it? See, regulators, mount up. I mean, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so I love that term. But anyway, first things first, I love to take big, deep breaths. And there is a thing called box breathing. You've probably heard of it, but it's 5, 5, 7 are the numbers, right? So you breathe in for 5, you hold it for 5, and then you slowly breathe it out for 7. And then you do that again. If you do that 4 or 5 times, that helps calm the vagus nerve. We're hearing a lot about the vagus nerve these days, but that actually can regulate your stress response in the moment. The other thing you can do is grounding exercises like walking barefoot in the grass, which I don't love, especially with all the bugs out these days and ticks and chiggers and all that stuff. What I do instead is I hold something cold in my hand, which can really quickly recenter you. If I am having a moment, sometimes I'll just jump in the shower because the water on your face, if it's cold, or any water in your face sometimes can recenter you as well. So that is definitely something. One thing I found funny from the yoga community is alternate nostril breathing. I think they call it pranayama, and it is shown to balance your left and right hemispheres of your brain, and that reduces anxiety. So I just picture somebody being like holding one nostril and breathing in, holding the other nostril, breathing in. I didn't actually look up what it looks like, but that's what I picture it to be. So, yeah. The next thing is EFT solution. So emotional freedom techniques, they often refer to it as tapping. That's a technique used to manage emotions and potentially reduce stress and anxiety by tapping on specific points of your body while focusing on a particular issue. It's a mind-body practice that combines elements of exposure therapy and acupuncture. And I have a friend that actually teaches this, and it sounds really quirky. No, it does, right? Where, I mean, you literally, like, if you're watching me on YouTube, like, you tap certain spots and you do it like several times. Like, I'm tapping my head, I'm tapping my nose, I'm tapping my chin, I'm tapping my clavicle. And what you do is you actually say things like, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. And while you're tapping in those spots, like I said, it sounds quirky, but I have been in some powerful sessions where Dawn has done that with people. And it will be something that triggers me and I start crying, and I'm watching her do it to somebody else who's either crying or not crying. Like, it is weird where it hits you, but subconsciously it almost like taps into that, like acupuncture where like they're putting needles into places and you don't know where it goes to, but all of a sudden you feel this release. That's kind of the same thing. So I thought about having her on the show. Dawn Whitney is her name. She's amazing. And also my friend Nadine Cherry, who is an amazing meditation coach, because I love meditation. Meditation is another thing that I notice very much when I am not doing it. My nervous system is all over the place. So I spend at least 23 minutes. I know it sounds funny. 23 minutes a day meditating. I have a guided meditation that I absolutely love. And the guy's got the voice of an angel. I can't remember what his name is, Stephen something, but he's Australian, and the music in the background is totally awesome. And so, yeah, it's just amazing. But find what works for you, what regulates your nervous system. Getting out for a walk, walking on some grass and grounding yourself, doing a meditation that's guided or not guided. Find something that works for you, because it's really important for you to regulate your nervous system in that moment, because it's freaking out. So that is number 1. Number 2 is creating anchors of routine. So your brain craves structure. Even if it's the rest of your life is packed in boxes, like these little techniques can help. So things like creating a wake and sleep schedule every day. So like you go to bed at the same time, you get up at the same time. Drinking water first thing in the morning before coffee. I will admit I am awful at this. I never do it. And I really want to be that person that drinks water in the morning first thing, but I'm typically a coffee first kind of girl. But they say drinking water first thing in the morning rehydrates you, and it's amazing. Creating one non-negotiable ritual. So mine is setting up the coffee pot every single night. It doesn't matter if I go to bed shit-faced. I wake up in the morning, my coffee pot has been set. I have been doing this for 30 years, and I can honestly say miss like 3 days in those 30 years, unless I'm traveling and there's not a coffee pot. You know, when I'm at home, my nighttime ritual, my non-negotiable is setting up the coffee pot so I don't have to do it in the morning, and I've got a timer on it and everything. So find one, non-negotiable ritual that you're absolutely going to do in this time of transition and make sure you do it. And the other thing that's really helpful is to create a top 3 list each morning. So again, remember when I said your prefrontal cortex can spiral out of control, like that, decision fatigue is a big deal. If you write down 3 priorities for the day, you are likely to hit them. If you write 20 priorities for the day, you're likely not to hit any, right? Or maybe 1 or 2. keep a big list of things that you feel like you need to get done. Like, you can put it at the front of the notebook, but every single day, just write down your top 3 things and make them non-negotiable of things that you have to absolutely do, whether it's changing your address at the post office or, getting your 3 or 4 bids from the moving company. Like, make a list and just put your top 3 on that. And then if you hit those 3 and you feel like you've got a lot of energy and you want to do more, then go back to the master list and cross those 3 off and pick another 1, right? Don't let your prefrontal cortex spiral. It's really bad for your stress levels. Okay. Number 3, nourish your body like it's recovering from surgery, because in many ways it is. You want high protein, high fiber meals for sustained energy. Don't skip breakfast. I have a really hard time eating in the morning, but I will tell you that if I have even just like a hard boiled egg and I'll pre-cook some bacon at the beginning of the week and then I'll just throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Even just 1 hard boiled egg and a piece of bacon. I mean, legitimately, I probably have 3 pieces of bacon, but it keeps my blood sugar stable. And for whatever reason, the rest of the day, I don't have those sugar crashes. But especially on moving day, it is incredibly important to eat breakfast, because sometimes you don't eat the rest of the day and we don't need anybody hangry. Hydration with electrolytes is really important, especially if you're moving in the summer. Like, you sweat when you're lifting things and skipping meals. Like, people don't realize that sometimes when you skip meals, you sweat because your body's like processing. And a lot of times electrolytes have really good, obviously it's got the sodium in it, which your body needs to, perform optimally, but it also has things like magnesium in it and other supplements that'll keep your body moving, even if you're, low on the food scale that day. And if you're not a breakfast person and you're going to fight me on that, maybe pack a snack pack, right? Put some like dried fruit in there, almonds, like jerky, so you have a little protein, or actually have like protein bars on hand in a bowl on the counter or something. And then just grab them as you're like packing or you're getting things done. These are not just like moving day tips. These are literally like the 3 months leading up to the moving day and the 3 months after, because you are in transition and your body is, not going to tell you that it's struggling, but it could be struggling. So this is the part that gets into the woo-woo a little. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about supplements, homeopathy, and green compass. So number 4 is considering supplements. I want you to check with your provider first. If you're on, Western medications, like there could be things that counteract, but for the most part, like you're not going to see that with homeopathy and really not the green compass stuff. Some of these supplements you may, but here's a little list for you. So you want to lower your cortisol, like we talked about, the prefrontal the cortisol weakens your immune system. So a good supplement for that is ashwagandha. And what it does is it's an adaptogen and it reduces the stress response in your body. So it kind of keeps things calmer. If you want brain clarity, a good supplement is lion's mane mushroom. We'll talk about that a little bit on the green compass stuff because that's what I use. Really what it does is kind of support neuroplasticity and cognitive function. So it just helps you like process decisions better. And if you want to calm your nervous system, a good supplement is magnesium glycinate or glycinate. People say it both way, or it's called L-threonate. And the reason it helps, it kind of helps your sleep, which obviously you do a lot of healing in your brain and in your body while you're sleeping, but it also reduces muscle tension and anxiety. So, that's a big one. And if you do have a hard time sleeping and you want better sleep, I use both valerian root and sometimes melatonin. So melatonin is something short term. You never really want to do it for longer than a week. Take a break in between and then you can do it again because it literally stops working after a while. So it's not something you want in your body all the time, but valerian root does help a lot. It's kind of up there with like the St. John's worts. It helps with kind of regulating your circadian rhythms. And that could be really, like we talked about, disrupted by stress. So you really want to kind of regulate that and help get into a system. So mood and motivation, a good supplement is rhodiola rosea. I never say it right. Rosea, Rosea is how it's spelled, but it's an adaptogen as well. It helps with fatigue and focus or during stress. So I want to get into homeopathy a little bit. So my friend Joanne and Heather swear by it. They, run their families on it. They are very, very big fans. Heather is a homeopathic, like functional practitioner, and she's amazing. They sell these little pellets. They're really interesting. So Homeopathy is a system of medicine that is fundamentally different from conventional or what they call allopathic medicine. So allopathic medicine tends to focus heavily on pharmaceuticals, which, many of them really suppress symptoms and then they cause other side effects leading to kind of further imbalance. So you've all heard the commercials where it's like, you want to you want to treat your anxiety, but then you got like all, 2 minutes worth of, side effects that it's going to bring you. So sometimes that is not the best path. And homeopathy seeks to kind of simulate the body's own healing mechanisms to correct the underlying imbalance that caused the symptoms in the first place. So homeopathy is oftentimes synonymous with home remedies like food supplements, vitamins, and herbs, but it doesn't incorporate any of these modalities in it in actuality. So that's not true. It's unfortunate that home is part of the word homeopathy because it doesn't have anything to do with like home remedies or witchcraft or food supplements or anything like that. But what it does, it's based on the principle that like cures like, meaning substances that cause symptoms in a healthy person can treat similar symptoms in someone who's ill, if that makes sense. So the idea is that these substances are diluted many times to the point where only a trace of the original substance remains. So people refer to the little pellets, that I call them the little pellets, but as energy. And it means that the homeopathic remedy is thought to carry the vibration or the energetic imprint of the original substance, even though there's, little to no physical trace of it left in there. But the belief is that the energetic vibrations can stimulate the body's natural healing process and that it corrects imbalances in the system and that in theory promotes wellness. So I can tell you that I have ADHD. I think we all know that. I've talked about it many times. You've heard me go down tangents. I'm actually formally getting tested and diagnosed later next month, but I've been told by so many people and quizzes and all that stuff that I've always believed that to be true. And I've always used it to put me in the zone and kind of fuel my energy. But sometimes it can be a distraction and it can really imbalance my focus and it makes life really hard. So I have actually been using the homeopathic pellets for that. There's a couple different ones called coffee cruda, and it just kind of helps you focus. You put literally like these little pellets under your tongue and you let them dissipate. They kind of just, melt on their own and you don't drink water or anything for about 20 minutes afterwards. And I have noticed the difference using them. And then there's all kinds of different things that I've used in the past too. But there's things that like if you feel sick, you take it and your body like kind of changes. But it's not for everybody. And not everybody believes that it works. Some people it works well and some people it doesn't. So between the supplements and the homeopathic modality, I would say try it, see if it works. Now, I have been using Green Compass. I think you all know that I've been kind of repping for them for a long time. I really enjoy their products. So it's a little controversial because there are some THC elements to it. So CBD is basically a hemp flower extract, and the CBDA is what I use. It is an isolate and it helps magnify the effects of CBD when it's taken together with your other hemp products. So I take both, but the THC in a product like Green Compass is not detectable when it's tested because it's down to 100 ppms, which is kind of their baseline. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but what I love about Green Compass is there's a lot of crap CBD out there, and Green Compass doesn't have any genetically engineered ingredients. It's not psychoactive, and it has a ton of benefits. So the benefits are that it kind of provides protection against iron environmental stressors, which is huge for me. It helps to soothe and ease discomfort associated with nausea. It supports recovery from exercise-induced pain, and it assists in the relief of daily stresses in your life. So it helps kind of maintain that sense of calm and focus. It does help a sleep cycle too, which obviously we talked about circadian rhythms, and it just overall helps in the, homeostasis of your body. So that's what I go for. There's another product within the Green Compass family that I've also started using called Mind Bloom. And I've always been a big fan of nootropics. Nootropics is how you pronounce it. It's mushrooms. So these aren't the ones that you take and you go on a big funky trip. It is the ones that you are like using to support focus and concentration and also like long-term cognitive health, right? So it helps with a healthy immune response and kind of just that full body wellness when it's paired with hemp products. And just like the hemp products that they have in the CBDA, it's USA grown, hand harvested, certified, made with organic ingredients, functional organic mushrooms. They have their green compass, as they call it, GC Sage, which is an extract that supports focus and limits mental fog. And it inhibits acetylcholine esterase, which is like it's just a lot of noise in your brain. But it also has organic cordyceps in that mushroom, which features kind of neuroprotective compounds that support memory and provide protections against free radicals, which I need to have Heather, one of my friends from Green Compass, on the podcast to talk about it because she's a wealth of knowledge. She's been using it for a long time, but free radicals also kind of mess with your cells. And so there's a lot of things that these mushrooms do to kind of protect you and your body and keep your cells clean. The other thing it has in it is lion's mane, which a lot of people have heard about at this point, but that's basically bolstering your cognitive health through the support of kind of tissue growth and repair and maintenance and things like that. So overall, the benefits that I have felt, like it literally supports focus in as little as 10 minutes. I'm not even kidding. Like I will take it when I get to my desk in the morning. And it really is there to promote long-term cognitive function, but it helps support that focus and concentration I need to get through the day because I have a million things that I'm doing in my new role. And I need something that supports my brain health and my memory. So that's what it is. So that was a lot. Number 4 was probably the biggest. That's the supplements, the homeopathy, and then my Green Compass magic. So number 5, we're more than halfway through the list. Prioritize sleep like a newborn. Even if it's fragmented, you want, using an eye mask, your blackout curtains. Sometimes I use magnesium spray on my arms or on the bottom of my feet before I go to bed. Like I talked about guided meditations. I don't do it when I go to bed because sometimes it like pumps me up and I want to go to sleep. But there's apps out there like the Calm app I've used, activations. But there's a lot of them that have timers that you can set. So that's a big one. But another thing that, is really hard to do, especially if you're like packing and watching TV, is limit screen time 30 to 60 minutes before bed. That's going to naturally boost your melatonin in your body, the stuff that you actually create in your body. So number 5 is prioritizing sleep like a newborn. And trust me, you're going to need it because your brain in transition goes through some funky stuff. But number 6 is protecting your inputs. And the reason I called it that is because during moves, your brain is super overstimulated. So any digital noise you can reduce is really helpful. And this is like unfollowing the chaos on Instagram or muting group chats or turning off non-urgent notifications. Like sometimes you just react instinctively because that's how we've been trained to go. But I mean, right now there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world. And once the algorithm on Instagram figures out that you're accidentally set down your phone while you're watching one of them, it's going to put all of that into a chat. And it could be really tough on your body if that's all you keep seeing when you're already stressed out. So choose intentional inputs. And this would be like, find positive people to follow on Instagram if you're going to stay on social media apps or TikTok or Substack or whatever you prefer. Maybe create a calming playlist on your Apple iTunes or Spotify that, you can turn that on. Like I actually really love listening to piano music. There's piano music of hits of today. And so it's kind of neat. Like, they got like Blind Melon and all kinds of random stuff that they'll start playing the piano and your brain's like, oh, I know this song. And you're not listening to words or anything, but it like really calms you down and like helps you focus. So I thought, so that might be something. But another thing is a lot of people like audiobooks because it just kind of, you're listening to it as you're packing or, unpacking or whatever you're doing. But that can soothe you too if you get lost in a book. So I know that's a good one. So that's number 6. Number 7 is ask for help and delegate relentlessly. This is the time to not think you're going to batch cook your meals the week before a move, like order takeout or prep meals, but make sure they're healthy because you really want to nourish your body with good, clean food. Let your friends pack. I have like 5 or 6 friends that are moving right now, and I've offered to help all of them, and not a single one has taken me up on there. And you guys know that moving's my jam, right? So have a neighbor come over, ask a friend. People really do want to help and be a part of something big. And especially if they know that is going to help you, like, let them, right? In the words of Mel Robbins, let them. You can even hire like a task rabbit. I don't know if you've heard of that, or like a sitter, or, I am a big proponent of having your house cleaned after you move, because you do not want to do that. And a move out clean is much different than like just a regular, like, keeping things tidy clean. So let somebody else do that. It's like, $150 typically, and it is worth every freaking penny. And then also, like, ask someone else to make decisions when you're tapped out, right? Like, we often think that like we have to make all the decisions, and that's, we're just going to take it. And that's what leads to decision fatigue. If it is not 100% important to you, like, tap out, let somebody else do it. Like, if you don't really care where you guys eat for dinner, then let somebody else pick and just purge that decision from your brain. So ask somebody to help you, when you need it, and delegate relentlessly. That is the key word, is relentlessly. So the final thing that I want to talk about, and I swear I'll let you go. I really did think this was going to be a shorter episode. I always say that, and then I go on for 45 minutes. But number 8 is normalize the emotional waves, right? You are going to feel unmotivated. You're going to feel like you're failing at this. You could be extra sensitive or withdrawn. That is normal. Transitions create emotional noise, and the key is not to interpret it as something being wrong with you. The good news is when you understand what's happening, you can support your system through it, right? Simplify your choices, nourish your body, sleep when you can, ask for help. Know that the funk isn't forever, but being aware that you're in the funk will help you give yourself a little grace. You can even call me names, or I don't know. Just know that this funk isn't forever, but if you call it out, it's going to stay around less than you think. So long and the short, you're not a mess, you're just in motion. There's a big difference. But I'm going to wrap this up. I'd love to hear about maybe other things that have helped you through a move. I'm mostly on Instagram and LinkedIn these days, but if you're on my Monday mailer, which has not always been out on Mondays, I just kind of like alliteration. If you're on my mailer, you can just respond to one of my emails. I'd love to hear about what you're doing. If you need support, I'm here. I don't have an active coaching roster, so you're pretty much going to get free advice. If you go to my website, I haven't really checked it in a while, the website Excel spreadsheet, but there is a coaching tab where you can get 30 minutes free. And it's not necessarily coaching, it can be support, right? So we can jump on the podcast and just talk about what you're feeling, how you're feeling, and I can tell you if it's normal or if you're crazy. I'm probably going to tell you you're normal, but sometimes just talking through and verbally processing helps. So that's it. You are not crazy. You're just in transition. And the more grace you can give yourself, the better you're going to feel. It's going to suck. Moving sucks, right? It just does. You're disrupted. You're not in your routine. Your body's in constant fight or flight. But I think that if you can unpack all of this and know that moving should just be a logistical challenge, but it's not, I think you're going to get through it. And find a moving pal. I always tell people to get a moving buddy that you can just call and vent to, and then they don't offer, advice. They just take it in with you, and that's it. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope these things helped, and I hope you learned a little bit in the meantime, but nobody's told you. I'm here for support, and I love you all. Thanks.
That's a wrap on today's tips and tricks. Jump on decidingtomove.com to apply for a free on-air coaching session, or join the newsletter to get your copy of the Moving for Smarties workbook. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or real estate agent. I do not own a moving company or work for the governing agencies transporting home goods, which means Mariette's on the Move LLC is not responsible for anything that happens during your move. This is solely my perspective based on my research and my own experience and training. So, move at your own risk. Bye for now.